kind of, unfortunately new to people. But some of the other barriers is just working in a male dominated industry, learning how to project, forcing yourself or learning how to project yourself in meetings, making sure that you're forceful. And these are things that no one should have to do. But as women, sometimes we get into these positions where if we're not forceful, if we're not direct, if we don't have this A or alpha mentality or approach, we feel as if we're going to be stepped over or looked over, or men feel like that they have that ability to do so if you're not forceful, if you're not direct. I remember I had an attorney friend who specifically said she would only wear skirts in court just to make it apparent that people knew, like, hey, I'm here to mean business. Not that I don't think pants are any different, but there's this kind of like uniform setting that you feel like you have to abide by. And I think that's totally wrong. If I take the same exam as somebody else as a male counterpart, I shouldn't have to go above and beyond and prove myself that I have the same degree. But I think that there are still barriers, even with this increase in degrees, there's still some of these physical and mental barriers that we face.
So it never stops. It's ongoing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, obviously, due to the fact that there are more advanced degrees, we'll see a shift and a change, not really sure when, but there's definitely a shift happening in terms of women in higher corporate positions and in positions of leadership within the community that used to be male dominated.
Wow, that's powerful. That's good to know. Thank you, Mo. Cheryl, let me have you jump in. What are your response and your thought, and if you can connect with the video?
No, I mean, I think there, in terms of being able to be heard in the room, there's absolutely, I might be the most educated person in the room. And if there's a bunch of older males in that room, I'm being ignored, or I'm being checked, or I'm being questioned. And it's one of those things where I still get hi hun, hi sweetie by other male lawyers. I would never in my wildest dreams call another attorney hi handsome, like something in terms of a normal saying I might say to like,
really? You can't do that?
I'm not, I get the sweeties, the huns, and all those things. When I was graduating law school, they said that out of all, even though law school typically is like 50% male female ratios, only 14% of litigation lawyers was women. And so I'm reading now with these advanced degrees, we're up to 30%, similar to that number in terms of litigation. But when I like to go, I'm the litigator, I'm in court all the time. Commonly, I'm with other male counterparts. And I had to learn really quickly that the louder I was yelled at, the sooner I needed just to go in front of a judge and not deal with that kind of stuff. Wow. Because a lot of times the way the attitude or the older male attitude would be, let me scream at Cheryl. And if I scream at her and I scare her enough, she's going to make her client do what she wants and be all these different ways, but they would not be that disrespectful to the other male lawyers in the room. So it's definitely one of those things where you have to overexert yourself, but you can't do so. Then there's also the level as female attorneys, we get called the B word a lot. Or if you're nice, we get the compliment that like, oh, you're not a B like all these other attorneys. And
wow,
when I deal with attorneys that are in their 60s now, female attorneys who are closer to retirement age, they usually are in that realm. And I feel that the reason that they had to be similar to that was because there was even less females around. And so they had to be super aggressive just to get any respect. So they didn't have space to be able to have a normal conversation. Where I think at least now with more females in the room, we don't have to quite always go rogue in every conversation. And so it's definitely something where I'll try to use as much sugar as possible until I need my vinegar. And a lot of attorneys will get, surprised in the courtroom is where I bring my growl out. I never do it professionally, but then it's definitely something, and I've been, the interpreter in the courtroom or other things. We've definitely had other colleagues in my office where I had a situation where I had an associate that at a firm, and she had been sitting with me second chair for an entire week, and the court officer yelled at her for bringing a box to my table, and the judge stood up though, and she was Haitian American, and the judge stood up and was like, she's an attorney, she has the right to be here, and you shouldn't be saying anything to her. But a lot of times, Mordetta and I run to that stuff all the time at court.
This is crazy because I was just speaking to Cheryl, and I'm putting my mental health background. I can only imagine sounds like, you know, you got to navigate through all that internal stuff. I'm trying to, there has to be a stress surrounding that. And how you all navigating through that? I mean, it's like, it's the norm.
You end up advocating for yourself while you're advocating for your client. A lot of times as the female in the room or anything like that, you have to make sure that, you know, because also too, sometimes I find it's hard that, you know, if someone's yelling at you, like a guy in the room, then your client's like, are you strong enough in the room? And, you know, you don't always get everything by strength, right? Sometimes you need wit, but sometimes it looks a certain way when you're in a certain room. But it's definitely something like not having the seat of the table is definitely something as a female walking in, everyone wants you to not speak or not to be practical. You know, I think that's definitely not getting invited is pretty normal. So
I don't know, man.
I made our own table, right? We said we're going to have our
own. That's it.
That's right.
We made our own table. And that's it.
What's that little Chris song? You know, get out, move out the way, something like that. You know? Yeah. But man,
I was gonna say to that same point, one of the tactics that I use, especially when I'm dealing with aggressive males, is to awkward silence. People hate awkward silence. They feel like if there's silence, they have to fill that with more noise. And so I will just say very little words and then be quiet and then let their mind go and start to think, well, why isn't she saying anything? She's not arguing with me. Why isn't she arguing with me? And that's how I actually get more done that way, by saying less and just staring at them saying, yep, this is what I want. This is what's happening. And then they, you know, going back and forth and argue. And then I just repeat the exact same way. Yep, this is exactly what I want. And then it works.
Having a strategy. Wow. Well, thank you both. Let me have Jackie chime in. And I know, Jackie, do you relate to all of this, especially with the video for you as a transformation life coach, entrepreneur? I know you're CEO of this travel agency. On the personal level, do you connect with all of this? How does it impact you?
Yes, sure. I mean, I cannot relate as an attorney, but I can definitely relate as a woman who wants growth, a woman who's always pursued her career and has been ambitious. So maybe not the same setting, but the same behaviors as far as aggressive men, steamrollers, just people who, you know, try to shock you into submission. And so I can totally, you know, I can relate to the women on the panel. Also, I can relate to the video that you showed earlier. Just, you know, one thing that stood out for me, and I think for most women here, it's just that once you make a decision that you do want to grow and you do want to become more, it does get lonely. And I think that's something that she mentioned, of just embracing that loneliness, that time, to just stay focused on your goals. So yeah,
but if you can, I mean, if you can dive into the two of you in terms of, so what is your process? How do you manage your emotion, you know, throughout the process? Like, what's the coping strategy? Like, how do you do it then? Especially you know, from a transformation life coach point of view, and I think with all the women that you have coached and so on, what's that process, man? And like, how do you manage your emotion?
Sure. I mean, I think at the place that I am at now, I'm in a much stronger place emotionally. And I have to say spiritually is really what leads a lot of my strength. But I think it's something that you grow into over time. This is a process over time. I remember definitely a lot of times in corporate America and academia, it's very similar but different to maybe how an attorney is. It's just so cutthroat. But I think the first time you do cry, or you go into depression, or you even burn out trying to act like you can ignore the emotional side of what it does to you when you are pushed against the corner or not seen, or microaggression happens. But I think it really, at this point, it starts to become your mindset. Like, am I going to see these as hurdles and figure out ways to get over them? Or is it going to overtake me and am I going to give up? So I think for me personal, I can't speak for everyone, but I say for me, there's been time when I felt like I was giving up. you know, with pursuing my goal. But then thank God, I believe in my connection to God, which really leads everything that I do. And he's like, I'll give you a couple of days down, but you're gonna have to get up. And that's been my guide for everything, really.
Come on. Wow, that's powerful, man. Mo, I'm curious. Go ahead, Mo. Yeah, what's your process?
On that point, I definitely recommend, I mean, there are definitely different couple of people who, you know, as women, you can research and look into, but I have a Catholic background, so I'm very familiar with how that process is. This is not a spiel for Catholicism or anything, but Mother Teresa, everybody knows who she is. She's literally gave her life to God. And if you read part of her bio, she talks about this spiritual desert that she experienced for many, many years, where she felt that she was in a dark place. She was not connected to God. She felt as if she was alone, even though she was doing all of this philanthropy work. She felt that something was wrong, and she experienced this for many, many years. And it wasn't until later that she felt that she misinterpreted that, and that time period where she felt alone was right before, you know, one of the last stretches of her ministry. And that is actually where she found her strength, in that loneliness, experiencing what she, you know, felt like she was away from God. She actually got her strength from that time. So I relate that in my practice. You know, we've all, you know, experience downtimes in one way, shape, or form. But I know that anytime I have this moment of quote unquote spiritual desert, something amazing is about to happen. This is my opportunity to connect with myself, to reevaluate with myself, to make sure that I have all my goals aligned, that all the noise is put to the side. Something really, really big is about to happen, because like they say, no one's going to support you more than you. And if you are not in tune with yourself and don't understand the struggles and how to manage struggles, you can't give that to somebody else. And no matter what you do in your profession, I'm a firm believer that all of the work that we do collectively is for the greater good of people. We are service people to everyone, whatever you do, right? That's why it's important, you know, as much as you can, speak, smile on your face, reach out to people, connect with people, because people need people, right? But you can't give to someone something that you don't have. And so those times of darkness and those times of frustration where you feel like you're alone, and or you're going through depression, it's a preparation for a breakthrough. And I think it takes a lot of people a long time to understand that loneliness, you're really not alone. This is actually just time that, if you do believe in God or a higher power, that this higher power is giving to you to redirect yourself for this greater promise that is coming for you. And I give this I don't want to call it advice, but this kind of spiel to, you know, especially women, when you're an alpha female, and I know we haven't talked about dating yet, but when you're an alpha female and you're a strong-headed person, biggest question is, when you gonna get married? When you gonna have kids? Why ain't you married yet? Oh, you have all these degrees. Why are you so smart? Why are you single, right? But it is in that time period, while we're growing ourselves and growing our businesses, that, you know, some of those things may be distractions, and it's okay to be by yourself. It is okay to be by yourself. And I think that's something that just as humanity, we struggle with, because we always feel like we need something or someone to lean on, but you have to take that moment and just kind of
sounds like
that breakthrough.
As you speak, you know, go ahead, Cheryl. Yeah.
You know, when as a business owner, one of my best friends, he's a male attorney, graduated the same time, and he was making more than me. And we always joked that he would call me to get answers to questions all the time. And so I thought about, like, what does he do differently? How does he operate differently? And when he was, for instance, he would meet with a new client, he wouldn't ask, this is what I would like you to pay. He would be like, this is what you're paying, and this is what I'm doing. So he kind of just set the bar in terms of, he asked for more than what he probably should have received, and no one questioned him. Now, on one hand, his attitude definitely helped him to grow more, but it also, he wasn't questioned the way that Jetta and I would be questioned. So we would get a whole bunch of backup questions and a whole bunch of different things, or we would get first, and there was a time where we had to set professional boundaries where people would say, can you meet at 8 o'clock at night on a Wednesday? Can you meet on the weekends? Can you do this? Can you do that? And I knew,
Wow.
you're not asking the man downtown in the big building to meet at 8 o'clock at night.
Mm,
You would like
right.
it.
What you trying to do? Bake some cookies?
You
Trying
want
to
a
bake some
professional
cookies?
meeting, you'll make the time for it. And you won't expect that I would be not having my life of my own, working at 8 o'clock at night, or they'll call on a Friday at 9 p.m. And so there's different, you have to set professional boundaries, because then also I realized when you have those professional boundaries, the more you respect yourself, the more they respect you and think you're worth the effort of being the person that they're getting the services from. So I think a lot of, male attorneys is just assert themselves, it's kind of like ask for what say what you're expecting, even if in your mind, in the back of your mind, you're like, I'm hoping they're going to pay this. I'm hoping that they're going to do this. You say it like this is what it's already been happening. Even if it's the first time you've ever asked for that, the only one in the room knows that you're asking for more than you've been ready to move forward for is you. And you're the only one know that you're messing up the spiel or whatever you're doing. So it's like, you just have to, it's trying to figure out, how do I still have my feminine power and being a business owner, but also still being respected just as a business owner. And I was talking to this attorney the other day, we were saying we had 5 attorneys on this one case. And she was saying, she's like, well, how about we angle it this way? Because I know if I'm there, I can take this approach. And she's like, Cheryl, I can't wait for there's a day where when we walk in the room, it doesn't matter that we're the women in the room, because sometimes the women in the room can change the conversation positively or negatively, just because of our in the negotiations.
This is a lot of information, a lot of knowledge. Let me do this. Let me just have at this time, I want to have folks to chime in, ask some questions to our panelists, man. Just want to open up the floor. Feel free to ask questions or comment. It'll be great. So our panelists can offer some tip and strategy. So I'd just like to open the floor at this time. If anyone have any question, any thought, because it's good to dig deeper and walk away with some kind of wisdom and knowledge. So the floor is open, y'all. Does anybody have a question for?
Hi, how are you? My name is Mirna Diaz, and I have a question for our lovely panel. For someone who's starting out as a new business owner, what is one word that you could use, or one phrase to kind of get them going and motivated?
It will happen.
Okay, thank you. Attorney Derisier.
Stay educated.
And Jackie?
Well, I was a little confused about your question. You're saying you are you the entrepreneur?
No, I am not. Just
So
in general, just for.
Oh, so you want to motivate an entrepreneur? What is one word that you would say?
Yes.
I mean, I have a phrase more like go for it. Did you hear me, Myrna?
No, I'm sorry, because my children are talking over here.
I hear that. No, I said just go for it. Like go for it.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, and I'd keep pushing. Don't give up. All right, no matter what. We got another question. Ken, go ahead. What's your question, Ken, to the panel?
Okay, just had to unmute first. I noticed in a lot of the talks about affirmative action, the language says women and minorities. And let's be honest, the biggest beneficiary of affirmative action tends to be white women. So how does that jive? Like, can legally we have set-asides that are strictly for people of color? Is that legally possible? Because to me, it seems like the only thing affirmative action did was to make white folks a 2-income home. I mean, I think they did a study that says something like white women were like 70% to benefit from affirmative action policies. So is there ways legally that they can make language that it will help the people that it was intended to help?
I think a lot of affirmative action plans failed for the exact reasons you're talking about, and that's why a lot of them have been stopped or overturned or taken off the table so that they could find other programs and ways to make things work the way it should. Because that's what sometimes I think when people, the problem is that we need the right people in the right rooms, right? Like the video we saw, we're looking for someone who says, I know who's going to be impacted by my decisions. I need to be a place of power. So when you have a bunch of people in power that are making decisions for people that they don't even connect with, they're not going to know how to make policies that are going to help and change and affect people that it should. So that's why a lot of the things as time goes, they quickly find a lot of these programs don't help who their intended persons are, or they don't care that it doesn't help their intended persons because that's their goal and what they're looking for. And so I do think that there's just no way to please a lot of different people. But I think, for instance, we're the only first world country that doesn't accept certain international laws about rights of women. I think that overall, this country has a lot of motivations and a lot of racist history and a lot of structural problems. It's going to take a while for us to get there and to make something like affirmative action actually be what it appeared to intend to be.
Great question. Thank you, Cheryl. Go ahead, Salam. Did I say that right? Did I pronounce your name right?
It's Salam.
Salam. Oh, don't give up on me. I'm getting there. Go ahead.
That's
What's your question?
This question is for Jackie specifically, but I would like to hear what the other ladies have to say. As a transformational coach and entrepreneur, how do you always remain authentic in yourself? I think it's, as a Black woman, for me, I feel pressured to sometimes, put a representative forward, or I would say my younger self would do that. But now I'm growing into my more authentic self at work or wherever I show up. So how do you do that? How do you step forward in your authentic self in professional settings, in entrepreneurial settings?
Thanks for your question, Salam. It's a journey that starts before entrepreneurship. It's like a personal journey, really, to be true to yourself. I mean, we're raised by parents who, influence the way that we think. And then we have issues, just traumas and different things and environments that, influence, whether it's friends, community. So many things influence us before we even become conscious that we are, a person. So I think it's completely natural to just kind of go with the flow or, be influenced by friends. But I think at some point you do get to a place where you're just like, who am I? And what do I want out of life? And what do I have to contribute? And if you're not asking those questions, maybe it hasn't come up, but there will come a point in, I think, everyone's life where they're like, why am I here? What is the true purpose? And what is it about me? And I think it was a question of getting to know who I am. But I say to, self-awareness is huge. You have to put in that work to know who you are, what do you want? What do you like? Like, can most of us in this room answer, what do we love to do? Or what is it that we love about ourselves? And so it's a lot of questioning. It's a lot of, and not wanting anyone else's opinion. This is like the big thing. And in my entrepreneurial journey, that's why I also became a certified life coach, is because I started seeing my struggles and I started seeing them in other women as well. And there's a lot of different parts, but it's about trusting yourself. It's about deciding that you're going to be about yourself. It's about trusting yourself. And I personally, again, I always say this, but I think you always want to ask God, what is your purpose here? Why are you here? Why did he create you? I mean, some people are not religious or spiritual, and I hope I'm resonating with those people. I would never impose anything on anyone, but I strongly believe like finding your faith, something that can give you greater guidance, because nothing's going to bring you back to yourself more than God is, because he wants you to step into yourself so that you can do what your purpose is. So I hope I answered your question. I felt like I jumped around a little bit, but if you join my coaching plan, we'll go through 13 weeks of navigating and exploring different ways to learn more about yourself.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's why Jackie is in the panel. And remember, the goal is to really, we're going to connect. We're building the community here. Let me have Michelle Thomas come in. Your question, please.
You would think after 2 years in Zoom, I would know how to navigate it. So I think the statistic is, I think it's like 33% of business owners in Massachusetts are women business owners, and the numbers get lower.
Yeah,
the percentage gets
lower,
lower
yeah,
with women of color. So I guess my question for the panel would be, I know the topic of today is like barriers, but can you all speak to some of the benefits of being a woman entrepreneur that we might have, like some of the things that people might look at barriers as women, but actually strengths that might motivate people to start that business or to keep going in their business?
I think other women want to hire women. So I think with Morgetta and I, if we're helping out, like, and I help fathers with Leonard, right? It's not necessarily just about helping, who my clientele are, but I think
that's powerful. Come on, Cheryl. I'm having a moment.
A lot of times I find that when persons say, wow, like my old male attorney never explained a single thing to me. Right. And so we're able to put that personal touch, or we're pretty much an all female office. The only persons in our office that are not female is Morgetta's brother. So he's family. So it's a little different, but as an all female office, we don't deal with a lot of stuff that goes. So it allows us to, the prior question, we can be ourselves because we decide the show, we decide what cases we want, we decide what we want. So I felt like I was able to be more authentic and do what we wanted together because we work for each other, right? Morgetta and I are each other's bosses. But through that, we're able to, so it depends on the clientele, but I think people are more open to something different. And so as females, sometimes we attract clients that don't want a male attorney or don't want, they're looking for certain things. And there's times where people love me and don't really feel Jetta, and other times where they really like Jetta and I'm not their cup of tea. So we work with those different things. But I think sometimes being an all-female office, it attracts different clientele or people that want that for themselves.
I think for me, the benefits at continuing to be a growing women's business owner or business office is building that bridge for the younger generation, right? So going back 2 questions ago about how do you become comfortable with yourself? It's by surrounding yourself with people who look like you. If you want to be a women business owner, surround yourself with other women in business. And I think that, luckily Cheryl and I went to college and law school together. So we built that atmosphere, but in order to continue that success, we have to build a bridge backwards so that there are other females and women who are in high school and college, and they can feel comfortable saying, you know what, I can actually do this. It costs to be the boss, right? So that's like what the phrase is, right? But that cost comes at being spearheaded, being a leader. You make your own decision. You don't have anyone else to go to. You make that decision. There is a peace of mind when you can say, you know what, no, this is what I'm deciding I want to do, and I'm going to just do it. So that's the benefit of being an entrepreneur and being a woman who owns your own business, is that you don't have anyone to report to. And if you don't like it, then it's not going to happen. And you don't have to get someone's quote unquote permission to do something. And I think society puts this pressure on getting permission about certain things, right? I have to get permission about what to wear, how to wear my hair, what color my hair is. Should I wear glasses? Not wear glasses. Is my clothes too tight? Is it too loose, right? When you run your own business, Cheryl and I sometimes go to the office in sweats and leggings. Why? Because we own it. And if you don't like it, you can leave. The door is right there. Okay. And so there's a power in that, just knowing that this is mine. And not only that, we can leave it to other generations. We can leave the tools and knowledge that we've prepared and learned to other people. There's a peace of mind in that. And I just want to circle back really quickly to Ken's question. I understand the struggles of affirmative action, but if you look at the history books, the women's movement, which was 1950 to 1960, was affirmative action was a production of that. So the women's movement is also a movement for people of color. Now, yes, has it been misconstrued certain times along the way? Yes, that's true. But the women's movement was a movement for also people of color. They both happened at the same time frame. And it was because there was an outcry of all of that happening in the 50s and 60s that produced affirmative action. So as women, we, I hate to say it, but we have an obligation to reach back and make sure that those things are happening for the younger generation, because if there's no one to push it forward, it's just going to stand still, and we can't stand still, right? And so I hope I tried to answer a little bit of everybody's question, but I think that, you know, having that power to say, yes, this is my decision, this is mine, and I can pass it along, is definitely a benefit to being an entrepreneur and a business owner.
Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else? And any other question? I see the chat is popping. Do we have other questions?
I actually had a comment.
Sure, go ahead.
To actually answer Michelle's question, if you don't mind, Lennon.
Yes, please.
I love both of the ladies' answers, but I also wanted to add, and I think Cheryl touched on this a little bit, like really early on, about Michelle, you're saying the benefits, right? I think now more than ever before, and women showing up in a feminine energy or a balanced masculine feminine energy is so important, because I was trying to be one of the guys too, trying to come up corporate America, you know, that aggressiveness, everything that, you know, I said I struggled with. I at one point felt like this is the type of behavior I would have to,
That was needed.
yeah, I would have to take part in if I want to climb these steps. If I want to climb up the corporate ladder, I would have to have like a tough exterior. But that broke me down time and time and time again. Like, just either it's what is it called when I burn out, because one, it's not me. I don't show up like that in real life. So having to switch and become this super aggressive person that I'm not was very difficult. But I think over time, I started to release that masculine way of being, of cutthroat or the first to speak, or let me, you know, whatever the things that guys do, you know, that we try to take on to do. No, you know, I've learned that there's so much more power in not being forceful. So there's a difference between power and forceful. And I think, you know, even, I don't want to say your name wrong, Jetta, but I heard everyone calling you Jetta, right? You said something about like when guys are like really aggressive and they're trying to get you in, you know, caught up in their energy, and just being quiet and giving them a second to bring all that energy down so that they're on the same level. And I'm finding so many other ways to be feminine.
Yeah.
Strong in femininity. And it's not like, oh, pick up my handkerchief, or like, you know, all these stereotypes. It's just a present about yourself. It's an assertiveness. It's not pushy. It doesn't have to be a bully. It's just a strong presence. And I'm still practicing that, but I'm seeing different results as far as how, you know, people talk to me, even at hello. Like a guy will come up to me, you know, Cheryl, you mentioned like, hey, sweetie, hey, honey. But if my presence or my demeanor is hello, like I notice an automatic different response from a man. They're more like, okay.
And you know, I think we aren't taught that being feminine is strong, right? And it has its own strength and its own way of like cutting through a room. I think that, you know, we have to do a lot of things underhandedly so that no one in their masculine energy feels offended by that. And so we have to learn that, you know, I don't have to be loud. I know, like when I was in high school, I was on a step team. That's where I met Jetta. And I wasn't, you know, very loud and boisterous. And so it was really hard. I could be a great captain. I could learn all the steps. I could do everything, but you had to have this strength, you know, this masculine energy to exert. And then when in court, I had to exert this masculine energy all the time. And then you're so tired. And, you know, and then the thing is that you'll meet people who think like, well, Cheryl's a lawyer, she likes to be argumentative. I'm like, no, I do it professionally. It's tiring and I don't want to do it that way. So how can we effectively have a conversation? And a lot of times, you know, now I'll be like, okay, I hear the points. Let's just agree, we disagree, or let's agree to all your facts. So a lot of times I have to say, let's agree to all your facts. You're completely accurate, but how do we fix the problem? And so a lot of times people try to take, because I think, you know, when you're arguing, everyone wants to just throw jabs the whole time. And so I think a lot of times it's like figuring out how do I exert the feminine energy in the room to be more productive? Because I do think that, you know, we think 5 steps ahead, you know, other than certain decisions and other things, but it's definitely understanding how do I flow that in a courtroom And that's why, you know, it's just different ways to understand. We're not taught that way, but we're also, that's how we're raised, and that's how society pushes everything, that the masculine energy is needed, and it's not. But it's just about, you know, how do you tell?
I think that's like, I just want to piggyback on that really quick. It's really important to learn to walk away. You cannot convince everyone. It's just not going to happen. Some
Yeah.
people, no matter how right you are, or how, even if they think you're right, they will just disagree with you. So that is definitely another tactic. Just own your point, your point and walk away, because some people will never be convinced, even if you're right.
Thank you. So let me, another question. I saw your hands raising.
Yes, one last question. The ladies were talking earlier about being lonely as you're moving through the journey, or you're ascending in your entrepreneurship or your education and things like that. How do you, yeah, and somebody had mentioned, I forget if it was Marjetta or Jackie or Cheryl, that, you know, you use that to kind of focus into yourself. But at some point, how do you, when feeling lonely, do you have a support network? Who's your tribe? How do you feel connected again, or get that support, especially when feeling lonely in your journey or in your profession, or even in school, in your education? Who do you connect with? Who makes up your tribe?
No, you know, and I think this is, I think Jetta and I are spoiled because we're together in the same office. And a lot of my female friends that have their own businesses, they're like, oh my goodness, it's such a bad day. And I wish I had someone to just to kind of back and forth. So I think a lot of times Jetta and I do have each other, but I think also too, it's like, how can you know, a lot of times it's like you have other people in your world that might not understand what you're doing, right? They're not going to understand what it's like to be tiring, to be a business owner and do these things. And so that's why you can join business groups or talk to other business owners, because they're going to be able to commiserate with you. So I think a lot of times we think, let me, you know, I'm suffering alone, and all suffering is almost identical, unfortunately. We all have our personal past, but there's probably nothing that any person has gone through that there's not someone who's been there in their own respect. So trying to figure out, like, how can I find better ways to handle it? So I think a lot of times Jetta and I will talk things out, or we'll talk to other attorneys or other people, or sometimes I just like to talk to other business owners, because business owners, being a business owner, doesn't matter what you're selling. You guys all have the same issues. So I think it's about understanding you're not alone, but figuring out how do you find good groups to connect to.
I think
Jackie,
on that. Oh, sorry.
You're on mute, Jetta.
I thought someone else was speaking. Okay.
I mean, I just had a question after you.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say really quickly on that point is, you know, it's especially in today's society, there's like this shift to be, there is a huge shift to be alone, right? There, you can pump your gas without talking to a gas attendant. There's some you go to the supermarket, you can go to self-checkout. Like there's a huge shift in, like, I could do this by myself. I really don't want to talk to anybody, because talking to people is actually an inconvenience in my day, right? And so I think that, you know, sometimes your strongest supporters isn't your immediate circle. Strangers will sometimes support you more than the people in your circle. And I think because we have this shift in like being on our own and doing everything on our own, it's hard to believe that somebody else who you don't know can actually support you. I know I'm a big advocate of #no new friends, right? My circle is my circle. You want to come in? I'm sorry, the application session has been closed, but I will say that there are plenty. I have joined tons of Facebook groups, okay? And Facebook and Instagram and all these social media platforms have actually created little communities where, you know, maybe I have a question that someone hasn't experienced. Maybe Cheryl hasn't, business-wise or whatever the case may be. I can reach out to this. Now, I'm not telling you go tell all your business to these people you don't know, but there is some sense of community that you can reach out due to, you know, the social climate that we're in. So don't be afraid to, you know, reach out if you're a part of these groups. And there's groups literally for everything. Like there's a group for every type of topic, business, whatever. So reach out to someone, say, hey, I saw you posted, or, you know, ask a friend to ask a friend, because again, if you're in that lonely phase, I'm a firm believer that everything happens for a reason. It's part of the growth. Every business owner I know has gone through that moment of, like I said, I call it, you know, encapsulate it as a spiritual desert where you feel like even God is leaving you alone. That's what it feels like, but it's part of a breakthrough. I know for me, even though this is not about connecting with people, I at that time, I connected with nature, right? If you go down to the seaport on a Sunday morning, oh my goodness, it's like beautiful, like the water's crashing, and these are things in our backyard. The Arnold Arboretum, it's free. You can just go take a walk.
I know, right?
Feel that connection, breathe the air, just like clean your mind, these things are free to us. And sometimes it's, it's just good to have that fresh air connection with nature. Watch a sunrise, sunset, but also feel like you can reach out to other people in Facebook groups to, help you through those challenging times.
Let me chime in real quick. Thank you, Mo. And before Ken and Rosa chime in, I actually I know one of my team guys has to go, but one of the things about what I'm doing here at Conscious Sports Cafe is definitely create a sense of community networking. And this for me is important, event because I have a lot of female client and partner, and you are part of it, to really, also solidarity with men. But I kind of want to have Christian, you there?
Yeah, I'm here, Leonard. What's going on?
Yeah, so let me have Christian chime in, and I'm gonna circle back so we can finish this up. Ways that we can support, ways that we can help, because I'm all intentional about what I'm doing here as a consultant, and definitely collaborate with folks. Go ahead, Christian.
Well, I mean, before I say anything, I just want to say thank you. I'm just working admin in the back, making sure the recording stays up, making sure everything works for this session. And I'm really happy that Leonard is working on projects like this. It's fun to be a part of this. And for me, just as someone as a spectator in this space, thank you guys for having this conversation and allowing us to be in the space too. That's pretty awesome. And basically, my goal here today is to continue to make this space helpful for all of you. And so really, after this is over, I'll be following up in an email. And I know that no one really likes to do this, but in this sense, it would be incredibly helpful if you could give your candid and honest feedback about what would be useful on a month-to-month basis. Like, what elements of this do you want to see again? Because what I tried to do with people like Leonard, who's working on Consciously Exposed Cafe, is build things out that people want to use, things that help people truly. And the best way to do that is in collaboration with others. And so even if that takes, a minute or two of your time, that would be helpful. And that's essentially what I do for entrepreneurs. But that'll all be in the email. So I take a step back here, but just say thank you again, Leonard, for highlighting me. Leonard's been doing amazing work, and I hope to see more of these in the future. So thank you, and definitely I'm passing the mic back.
Thank you, Christian. And in essence, I'm building a team, and I have a team, and I was very intentional. Even the folks on the panel, I know I've been working with Sharon Mo for a very long time, especially working with the men, ladies, because there's the other side of the story. And I think as we're talking about the barriers, right? And the question is, how do we men contribute to that? And imagine if I'm doing the same topic with the men, which I have, it's sort of these hot topics. So we're about building the bridges. We're about healing. We're about finding ways to how to really support each other on an entrepreneurial level. Because the challenge is also on the men's side, and especially if you're talking about Black men, especially if you're talking about Black fathers, especially if you're talking about the impact of mass incarceration. How do we kind of intertwine that with entrepreneurship and so on and so on. So the conversation is a powerful, it's deep, it has many layers to it. But I just want to know that we here as a network, Conscious Exposed Consulting to support. I just want to continue because I know that Ken had a question, and then we'll go with Rosa. And for those who just join in, just keep listening, and we'll circle back. But we have everyone's email, so we're gonna follow up. I don't know about you, but I want to follow up. I want to learn from you all. But Ken, go ahead. What was the question, sir?
Yeah, it's actually a comment. I was going to say, I noticed, like, I'm from a construction background. I've been in construction for 24 years. Ever since they instituted these zero tolerance policies, the demeanor on the job site has changed. Like, you don't hear the commentary. Now, when we're by ourselves, you might hear someone say something off cuff. But the days of, just yelling at a woman on a job site, that's not happening anymore. So I'm like, if it's happening on the construction site and they're instituting this in sports, why is this not instituted in the legal field and medical field, places where they're supposed to be more posh, more educated and everything else? It seems kind of weird that industries that were considered run by Neanderthals seem to have less sexual harassment cases than when I turn on TV. It's like the medical community, it's the legal field. Like isn't that kind of like weird to you guys, or is it just me?
I guess it just depends on the team and the people you're dealing with. So I don't know statistically right now if there isn't less sexual like assaults and other things on women in those fields. I think it depends on the fields and what conscribed, like what is the team looking like. I do think that naturally there's certain things that are not allowed, but I think as like in Jetta's and I legal field, it's a little different, right? Just like I don't have a boss, neither do these guys, right? We don't have anyone sanctioning us unless we're really egregious and it's really bad. So with the freedom of being an entrepreneur, you also don't have, I can't call someone's boss. I did have one occasion where there was an attorney who I thought a younger attorney was acting inappropriately. So she was part of a legal aid organization. So I did call the boss and I was like, this attorney is stopping a family from resolving their issues. So that's only because she was really egregious and had talked a different way it was Jetta versus myself. But otherwise, I don't think we don't have necessarily someone checking us. And I think when you're lawyers, doctors, CEOs, when you're in certain, I think that the higher you go, the worse it gets, right? I think the higher you go, you're going to see less women, especially less people of color, especially less women of color holding those higher positions. So they're not used to being told that they can't act a certain way, right? They're not, there's just less rules the higher you go. And so you have to advocate for yourself in different roles. So I think the more educated you're going to be, the higher position you might be in a certain place, you're more likely to deal with a lot of womanizing there, I think, than you will in other jobs.
Thank you, Cheryl. Let me have Rosa chime in. Go ahead, Rosa. I know you have your hands a long time waiting.
I'll stop. Hi, everyone. No, I just wanted to piggyback on some of the stuff they were saying about the masculine and feminine power and energy, and how sometimes women, I hear that when you exert too much of your masculine power, that's how women sometimes end up, getting sick, because then they're like masculine all day at work, and then they're going home and they're still not knowing how to turn it off and be like more feminine and in their natural state of being. We both have, men and women have masculine and feminine energy, and women, obviously, we're in this body, and so we're supposed to use more of the feminine. When we use too much of the masculine, then it becomes out of balance. So there's that. And then I wanted to just say some of the ways that I tap into, I guess, sort of like the self-awareness thing, like Jackie had mentioned, is to journaling. I journal, and so I started doing that maybe a couple years ago. Now I try to do it more consistently, and so it's sort of like tuning into myself, because the answers lie within. And so journaling, I do meditation a few times a week, but at times, I do other things and try to like stay out of, like, although I'm like on social media, I try to like, not really like watch the news and just get a glimpse of what I can do. So it's like shutting out certain things that's going to continue to bring some of the stresses on our lives. So that's how I deal with it. Oh, and then nature, nature, sunset. I'm a sunset chaser, sunset, sunrise. Take me by the water at any time. That's my place. So like finding those places, or finding those things that bring you peace to take off some of the everyday stresses. That, that's not the overall topic, but still, it's like it helps, I think, with the psychological part of how you deal with your day. And I found, like, going for my walks, with my friend, and sometimes when she's not available, I would just go on the walks by myself. And I just found that I just tune into myself, because that's where I find that I could do better. I knew it's good to find people to chit chat with, but a lot of times people are just going to give you their opinions, and they're going to try to like help you out, how they telling you things that they think you want to hear, even though at times it's not always what you need. So I think finding time to sort of be not a hermit, but spending time with myself and getting to know myself better. And I can deal with people better. I can do things like Jetta mentioned, like, someone says something crazy to me, I'm just like, silence. Like you just, it's like you just said something real crazy to me. Like you realize that. You listen to yourself. Like, but
can I
I will
add one thing on
continue.
the meditation piece? I'm a newly, I don't say newly, but I would say in the last few years, meditation has started to become a really big thing to me. And I purchased this Mongolian bowl. And so if you don't know what a Mongolian bowl is, it's essentially a copper bowl that comes with a spool. And if you spin the spool correctly, it will sing. Like it sounds like someone singing, it produces this vibration.
Oh.
But the only way to make the bowl work is that you have to be calm and your body has to be in a relaxed state of mind. And so I try to do it now, once a week, but crazy. I have 2 young kids, but if that's something that's a challenge for you, I highly recommend getting a Mongolian bowl. You can get it on Amazon, and it actually forces your body to calm down. And if you actually do it the right way, you could feel the vibrations of the bowl actually go through your body and kind of like zen you out. So hashtag Mongolian bowl.
Thank you for
Yeah.
that. Yes.
I want to
This
say
is all connected. Go ahead, Jackie. Go ahead.
no, I just love everything that Rosa said, as far as just ways to reconnect with yourself, and even to touch up on what Salam said about alone time. Sometimes it's okay to be alone, like I'm not saying, if you're depressed or you're not feeling good or like things can get dangerous, that's different. I don't mean that, but I'm just saying, just sometimes when you're, everything you said, Rosa, sometimes your friends will give you advice or colleagues, and it's coming from their own experience, and it has nothing to do with your experience, and they mean well, and it's loving, but you're the one in your shoes. You're the one experiencing everything. And sometimes people could give us advice and it means well, and it's love, but you have your own experience that you've experienced. And there's so many parts that maybe you're not translating. So you are very much capable of coming up with those answers on your own. And that's why I think alone time is important, because we'll find other people to, fill in and give us advice or tell us what they think is right. And it might be a good answer, but it might not be the right answer for us. And the only way to do that is to go within or go for a walk, but while you're walking, you're going within, you're asking yourself more questions. Like anytime you catch yourself saying, I don't know, I want to push you to continue asking yourself that question, because the truth is we all really know. You were in denial about what we know and we don't want to know. And there's a lot of things going on there, but challenge yourself to get uncomfortable with what your mind is telling you you're really going through. And sometimes it takes some time, so going back to Salam, like leaning on people, I think, yes, have a community. The girls had Jetta was saying something really good, like find an outside community, people that are outside of your circle, so they don't really know you, so they'll give you the most genuine, from what they think. Or maybe it's just being around them, just talking about something entirely different. You just need that dialogue back and forth, but don't shy away from being alone. And I would really challenge everyone to get to a place where you're okay being alone. Like, because when you're able to, that means you're able to fully be 100% in yourself, by yourself. And that's how you get to show up 100% for other people in your full authentic self. So it's going to take some alone time, right? How are you your authentic self if everything you're taking is everybody else's advice but your own? So you have to have some time by yourself. You have to decide. Sometimes it's making a decision, like, do I want to be responsible or not? Like, I don't know. It's harder to make a decision and start taking steps in that direction. You're not going to be perfect every single time, but the more you put yourself in practice, I'm over here trying to follow this planner. You know what I mean? I'm not the best at following a planner. I'll get it.
I buy so many of those and waste them.
Okay, they're so cute. They're so, the stickers, everything.
Yes, the stickers.
The small thing.
Like I have, an agenda now that I'm following. It's not perfect. I don't go into it every day like my goal was to, but once a week, every 2 weeks, I'm still jotting. I'm gonna commit for the whole year. But that's how you take like those little baby steps towards your right direction. And you have to be compassionate with yourself. I can't stress that enough. Like, compassionate for yourself as you're growing into yourself, as you're, you judge yourself. We're our hardest critic. So turning that voice, the one that's always telling you like, oh no, you're not good enough, still not good enough. She's ugly, she's so mean. Like, no.
I think it's
her, yeah.
No, absolutely. I think it's also though, we're the first, like, if you're anywhere between the age of 25 and 45, we're the first women that were allowed to be alone though. Right? I think most of us have mothers that didn't allow to have a moment to be by themselves because they were told to be married, they were told to have children, and by the time they're alone, they're 65 and they don't know how to be alone at that point. And statistically, we're not getting married, we're not jumping into marriage that we shouldn't be getting married. Statistically, we're not having children that we're being, making these different decisions, the family dynamics different. So I understand why most of us don't know. I don't know how to be, learn how to be alone, because no one before our generation ever was alone as a woman. We were told that we weren't, in other parts of the world, women still aren't allowed to drive or, all these different things. Like, we have a lot of rights here, even though it doesn't feel certain things that we have a lot of room to grow. Right?
Literally taught
We're the only ones that are like, have been told it's okay to be by ourselves. It's not abnormal to live by yourself, and women were never allowed to do that. I told a friend the other day, I'm like, you do realize, my friend was born in the 70s. I was like, you do realize when you were born, I couldn't get a credit card. And we're not talking a million years ago. I couldn't get a loan. It's only been like 30, 40 years since certain schools I'm allowed to attend. So when my mother had me at 80 and 83, she only then it was really hard for her to say, yes, I can leave my father if I didn't like the man. No, she couldn't get a house for herself. It was they were just starting to get the rights. So of course she was like, when she had me, she was the first one that could even apply for a credit card. So that takes a long time to transfer into a person that, now we understand I can have a credit card, I can have a home by myself. So many people said, why are you going to buy before you're married? And that's just the normal standard. So I understand why a lot of us are struggling to find our own space, because we're the first ones finding space. There's no one to teach us how to do it at all.
Yeah, we're taught codependency, from a very young age, and then trying to unlearn that that's why being alone is so scary.
Yeah.
It's like, what?
We're told it's not normal.
Yeah. But you're so much stronger when you're secure in who you are and your self-esteem. Like, you just
let the church say amen. Go in the chat, amen, y'all. Amen.
Amen, for real.
So yeah, and that's what my coaching program is really all about. So what I do through my coaching program, I know I have to plug it, but
you do. Go ahead. That's the point. I set you up for that.
I'm not even trying to, but we're talking about I'm so passionate about women really owning who they are and growing into themselves after we've been taught to grow and be everything for everyone else. And so what I do with coaching with me is that I create that space for you, where usually you got to take care of your kids, you got to take care of your parents, everybody that we take care of, right? And then when do you have time for yourself? You're up all night, maybe trying to do a little bit of whatever you have to do. So my goal is that hour that we are together, we're creating a space where it's all about you getting to like, who am I again? Like, I'm doing all that. I'm great for all these other people, but who am I for me? What am I? Am I more than this? And I know a lot of women struggle. Like, I have all this stuff. I'm married. I have a job. I have this, and that was my story too. Like, but why do I feel like there's more that I'm supposed to be doing?
We're born from a half empty cup and not wondering why anyone else is flourishing around us too.
Our parents, yeah. I could see it. I see it in my mother. I could see it in my grandmother. All love to them. I love them, but I've learned from their journeys, and I feel like it's my job and all of us in this room to like break that. I hate the word curse, generational curse, but I believe if all Black women heal, the whole world will heal. Like, that's just how deep our healing is, because everyone leans upon us in some shape or form.
Jackie, just out of curiosity, we guys have this conversation. Are we just talking about America? Because we gotta say global. Like, I've traveled And it seems like in other countries, the brothers are a lot engaged. Like I was in Sierra Leone, and when I was, coming home to the hotel after the club, I seen the fathers bringing their children to the school, not the mothers. So I don't know
Right.
how much this is, just America, opposed to all 2.8 billion of us in 150 countries. Maybe if in America, when women are acquiring husbands, they're like, well, what are you going to do with raising the children? That might, take off some of the pressure about I'm doing all the cooking, I'm doing all this. Because it seems like outside of America, it's different, the dynamics.
Well, it is. If I can chime in, and I think because I've traveled and I've been around originally from Congo as well. Because I think once you step outside of the United States of America, then you can really see how other countries or other culture kind of do things differently, right? And I think the reality is, when we talking about overcoming psychological, emotional, systematic barriers to entrepreneurship, specifically pertaining to people of African descent, we have to look at things on a historical level, acknowledge, that there is historical trauma there. Then we have to look at things on the internal level. There's the internal trauma, and then you look at your own person, and then you kind of say, okay, how does other culture, from an African perspective, deal with it? Essentially, it comes down to really acknowledge the fact that no matter where you're from, who you are, you do matter. Your story matter, right? And then there's always room to learn, because what I find out, and I was very intentional about kind of this consciously exposed cafe, is that for me as a coach, as a consultant, working with organization around improving organizational culture here in the United States with company where I've done training and workshop and working in mental health. And even if I went back to Congo last year, trying to kind of do workshop an event like this, and you learning that, their own internal struggle is deep too. You're learning how people are surviving, but the level of stress, it's more of like, they know how to navigate stress, especially, if you're from those African country, and then you come back in America, you're like, whoa, that's a lot. We going through a lot. So we just have to find a way to look at multiple layers. But it's good to, at the end of the day, come back to yourself. Like, start with you first. When there's no enemy within, the enemy outside cannot hurt you. Let me repeat that back. When there's no enemy within, the enemy outside cannot hurt you. So you start off with yourself and you go from there. But yeah, somebody want to jump in?
I just want to jump in really quickly. I know it's 7:00, and this might be an unpopular opinion, so I'm willing to do a whole other chat on this. But I will just say that I agree with you, Leonard, that a lot of it is cultural in terms of what you see in other countries, how men interact with the families. However, and like I said, we could make another chat about this. However, those actions are still perceived as a power struggle for the man over the woman. I'm the one taking the kids to school. I'm the provider. I'm the one that's working. These are my responsibilities. Mm-hmm. And that can also still be used as a submission tool. Cheryl and I do a lot of divorce cases of men who are from different countries, right? And the first thing, and again, this is just my experience, the first thing that they say is, I don't know what I did wrong. I took the kids to school. I even went to the doctors. I was the provider. I paid for all the food. I even helped her go to school. That was all the things I did. And I'm like, whoa, sir. We are very happy that you did all these things. But again, in their mind, you can still see it's a struggle tool. So yes, I agree that in other cultures, men may be more involved, but don't get it twisted that it's not some sort of struggle power or submission power that they use to exert their strength in a relationship, because it does happen.
Well, still
that's all the time, yeah. Because
in many other cultures, women, for instance, if the man passes away, they're not allowed to have their children, right? Or they're not allowed. The children are not their own if they do not, depending on what's going on, and obviously everyone. I think the problem is, for as much as certain cultures have come as far, we still have, what's happening with the Taliban again today, as though we're not, it's 2022 and all the women were told they had to leave work. And so, there's just different things around the world globally. It's still such a problem in terms of the family dynamic and how women are treated and what happens. Yeah. And that's a larger discussion internationally.
No, it's very powerful internationally. And also for me, it's so triggering because, for me, I should do advocacy, human rights. I mean, I'm from Congo. I've been in refugee camp. And when I'm talking about Congo, it's personal for me because, you're talking about the rape culture, you're talking about everything that Mo mentioned, how it does impact women entrepreneurship in Congo. Because I remember I was in DRC and realizing that, Congo is Africa's second largest country. We 80 million. So half of the population and the young people, but the young female entrepreneur, the Congolese women entrepreneur. And just so y'all know that Congo produce all the minerals that produce a technology here. Yeah. And women entrepreneurship in Congo is the place to be. And I think when I do my bill bridging back and forth, I realize that to what Mo Point said, like it's deep. And I think that's why, myself and both attorney, we have collaborative working with men. That's why I work with the men. You need that balance, but it's good for us men to have an uncomfortable conversation, be uncomfortable with the point that attorney Mo said, and then we can build. But yeah, I think it's definitely multi-layered, but it's good to understand both perspective locally here in Boston and then international, because you are connected to a culture. But I think you have to now sit down that how does impacting my own dream as a woman, how does all these, because a lot of women get discouraged. And that's why I'm always back and forth in Congo, building the youth entrepreneur, but the female entrepreneurship as well. So, but yeah, anybody want to add any comment? We got time. Y'all look like y'all gonna spend the night.
Well, no, you made it seem like we're about to wrap it up. So
no, it's good. I was trying to get your attention, but go ahead. This is the cafe, y'all. Go ahead.
Well, I wanted to say one thing because I really thought that this was the end, Leonard. But first and foremost, almost okay. Well, I did want to shout out the women's group that I run with me and a group of my friends, and it's called Purposeful Black Women, and you can find it on Meetup. We slowed down during COVID, but we're back up and we're kicking off with a hike at Blue Hills. This is going to be on the 26th of this month at 9 a.m. Definitely go to meetup.com and look up Purposeful Black Women and you'll find that. But this is to anyone who, if you are going through that, feeling lonely or feeling like you want a community, definitely check out Purposeful Black Women on Meetup.
Amazing. Throw in the chat. Let me open up the floor too. Does anyone want to make an announcement about what do you do or just promote your business? This is what the space is about. We talking about execution. So we have done talking about the obstacle, we talking about the barriers, and it's a conversation that's never end. But I always like to help people execute, meaning that we have solution to all of this, right? Jackie is a perfect example with the group, and then myself with my network. But yeah, anybody want to chime in? I'm just asking, share what do you do and what can benefit the group?
What kind of businesses does everyone run? Jetta and I, we do primarily family and real estate litigation, real estate closings, brokering, and any of that. So if you have a business or real estate problem, we got you, or a family problem, we have you. What else does everyone do?
Do you guys do trust and wills?
Absolutely.
Perfect.
Look at that. Y'all about to get connected. It's on, lady.
And you do you work with people that are getting divorced, so that's good.
Absolutely. Yep.
I'm not getting a divorce. I'm just
don't need to. I don't
I need it for other reasons. I need it for other reasons. Yeah. Okay.
Yes, anybody else? And keep in mind that we do have access to all your email. I'm intentional about doing this because the goal is definitely people to connect with each other, and to know that if you out there want to grow your business or want to start or you stuck, because I've done so many workshops, is how to be unstuck, because we stuck and it's okay. But I think feel free. I want to create a space where people are connected. If you do make money off this network, send me a bill, send me a check. But anyway, anybody else, please? Thank you,
Really
Rosa.
quickly, Rosa, can I jump in right before you, 2 seconds? I also want to promote a close friend of mine who is an author, who is also from Boston. Her name is Michelle Thomas. She's actually on the line here today. She is the author of this book here, My Son, You Shine. She also has another book for our daughters. It's called My Daughter, You Glow. And I'm also wearing one of her merch, right? I'll just get up real quick. For the brand, and she's on here, and we're all working extremely hard. So if we could have a platform, I think her work is so wonderful and so great, but people have to see it. And so Michelle, at that point, I will let you take over, but we can't forget about Rosa. Rosa, appreciate you letting me just creep in real quick.
Of course. Go ahead, Rosa.
Let me unmute myself. So I'm a financial coach, financial representative. I work with people reviewing your finances. And if you have like a goal of buying a house or just, retirement planning, we do asset protection, life insurance. So I know when folks get a divorce, they need to get life insurance. So holler at me. And so I'll include my information in the chat.
Please do. Throw in the chat. Anybody else? We still got time. Don't be shy. I want to call out certain people, but I don't know. I want people in the spot because I know there's some folks out there who have great business idea or they're trying to grow something. So, this is it.
Hey, Leonard, can I just make a suggestion? I don't want to put more work on your plate, but it sounds like we have a lot of awesome people on this call. I don't know if there's a way I know you have the email list, but is there a way we can kind of start like a listserv or maybe like a list of what people's businesses, what they can do? Because I'm sure we can.
Oh yeah,
use
I'm
each other's-
ahead of you. Yeah, that's the goal.
Got it. Thank you.
I'm ahead, and I learned from you. I'm ahead. Yeah, because the follow up. The thing about Boston, we're good at throwing it in the city, but I'm big on follow up, execution, and action. That's why I think me and Jackie be having this accountable meeting. I'm big on the one-on-one behind the scene. You know what I'm saying? We can talk all day, but we have to execute because the goal is exactly purposely to make sure that people connect with each other. And in addition to that, I want to offer some tangible resource that comes along because there's a power in what we're doing, right? Collective success. So in essence, I'm all about community building. That's my expertise, where there's so many tips and strategies to do it. But that's the plan. Just want to give the floor to anybody else. And am I missing stuff in the chat or? Okay, so I want to give the 3 panelists to close out. To close out, give some tip and strategy, some walk away. Then after this, they're going to be home, start thinking about, wow, what Jackie said was powerful. What the attorney said was powerful. Let me start off with you, Jackie, transformational coach. Just some closing remark.
Sure. I mean, first and foremost, again, Leonard, I just want to thank you for like pushing me to do this, to get out here. Just our accountability, like since I've met you, like you've been so awesome. I love your spirit. I really appreciate you so much. I'm all about this work. This is like passion for me to not only reach my own goals, but to help women reach their goals, to empower my friends, to empower our children. I'm passionate about Black people. I'm passionate about my people. And like I said, I would love for folks to reach out. If you're a woman and you just want to build community, please, meetup.com. Purposeful Black women, spelled just like that. You'll see that. And it's a real organic group. We're not forced. We just want to create a safe space for women to try different adventures, try different things, meet new people, but feel comfortable about it. And it's about building community, right? So I'm here to support. I'm an entrepreneur going through the journey. I'm not at the top of my game. I'm not even damn near. I know what I want to create is going to take anywhere between 7 to 10 years, but I'm here for it. I'm all like, this is what we're going to do. And so I want to help women who they have that thing that they know they want to do, but they're not feeling strong enough, or they're not. And that's the type of community we want to build. And that's how I want to empower the women that I end up coaching.
Up for Jackie, y'all.
Thank you so
Give it
much.
up for Jackie. Thank you. Attorney Mo.
Yeah, I just want to just again, just like Jackie said, thank you, Leonard, for being a voice, for all of us here. Creating a community, creating a space for people to vent, collaborate, join, think, breathe. I think it's awesome to have all this. What I'll say to the women business owners or entrepreneurs in general, sentiments that have been said throughout the night is obviously number one, never give up, sorry. To learn who your community is, build your community. And I'm a big education pusher, so read books. I mean, I think reading I don't know if it's become taboo. I don't know if it is taboo, but reading really is fundamental. I mean, it's like the basis for like really having a successful career. So all those successful top CEO, rich millionaire type, guru people, read. That's, part of their success repertoire. So when I was after law school, in between law school and becoming an attorney, I'm not advocating for anybody to do this, but I would just go to Barnes and Noble, get my little Starbucks. I would just pull stuff off the shelf and I would just read as I, got my thought process. Obviously, you can go to the library, do the same thing, but yeah, just make time for you and educate yourself and learn and expand your mind.
Thank you, Mo. Give it up for Attorney Mo, the best attorney in the country. I don't play. We got cases, man. We do work. Me and Mo and Cheryl, we do works, man. I think it's powerful. Go ahead, Cheryl.
So Leonard, I think one of my favorite texts from Leonard and it'll be random and all the time. Cheryl, did you eat lunch? I'm like, oh my goodness, I haven't nourished myself. And he probably didn't eat lunch himself and realized he didn't. He's probably like, Cheryl didn't either. So let me just check that she is. And so I think it's very important, even though, to have those things. And what I've been able to do lately to avoid burnout is that Cheryl today, like Cheryl 5 years ago, would have loved to have a full-time paralegal, our accounts managers, our account receivable, and all the full team that we have. We have an associate this year. And these are things that 5 years ago, Cheryl would have begged for. And so I have to appreciate, even though I'm not where I want to be, but I'm like, this is, you have to be happy in the moment too, because you're where the old Cheryl wanted to be. Right. And so if you don't appreciate this, otherwise you're just always going to be anxiously waiting for the next part of you. And so you have to like now and then still want better in the same moment. Otherwise you'll go nuts every day. So I think it's about enjoying where you are, but also knowing like, okay, I'm doing this stuff so that 2 years from now, I'll have things to be better, right? Because today's decisions do affect you 2-3 years from now, whether we like it or not. We can fix it or it can be better, but you have to appreciate this is good now and it's going to be better going forward.
Give it up for Attorney Cheryl, y'all. Give it up. Give it up. Give it up for yourself. Give it up for yourself.
A good thing we can read, Leonard. It's not talking.
Spend time with women who are not. My best advice for women's entrepreneurs would be just be passionate about what you do. Go at it day after day, work hard at it, and you would succeed.
Try and run a business that you can push down a hill or try to push against an open door. And for us, that means trying to get away from all the noise and to really focus on where the opportunity is.
My advice to women entrepreneurs would be to actually spend time with women who are not entrepreneurs, who are like myself in the corporate setting. I think we could learn a lot from each other.
My best advice to women entrepreneurs is reframe the question to a place of yes. People are going to tell you a million reasons why something can't happen, why someone can't run a business or you can't do something. You just have to ask yourself, how can that happen?
Growth and comfort don't coexist. I'd say be prepared to get uncomfortable.
My best piece of advice for other women entrepreneurs is don't waste time being the business person you think you should be. Your instinct has a lot to answer for, so listen to it.
Just be the best you can be, and if you believe that you can, then you will.
Let's shout about it, tell your story, and ensure that together we're acting as growth heroes and inspiring the next generation of female entrepreneurs.
Continue to innovate. Innovation is the engine of growth and progress.
There you have it. Continue to innovate. Oh, I got my mentee here. Is that Deborah? Is that you? You had a question? I know she just chimed in because this was dedicated to, all.
Welcome to the Connects web chat at the U.S. State Department's Bureau for International Information Programs in Washington, D.C. My name is Allison Shapiro.
I know y'all scared like it's the FBI, it's Putin, it's not Russia, y'all. We're good. We're good. We're good. Go ahead, Deborah.
Hello, everyone. I'm just getting settled. I just came in from work. So I just want to shout out myself. I feel really uncomfortable doing this just because I am not like settled, but I feel like when you're trying to do something and your heart keeps telling you to do it, you should go ahead no matter how afraid you are. And the lady just said, get ready to get uncomfortable. So although it's uncomfortable for me to do, I'm going to shout out myself. I'm really good at doing braids. I see some sisters here that have braids on.
Okay, come on with it.
I will beautify them, and I promise you, you will come get your braids by me. So I'm moving from Oxford. I'm just moving into Boston. I've been here for a week, a little over a week. And obviously I'm trying to get my stuff settled. But even in the middle of the mess, like I just want to go for it. So I'll put my number on the chat. You can text me. We'll talk about it and see how it goes from there. Thank you.
You go, Deborah. I'll be pretty like, can you? And this is what it's about. I'm glad she made it. And I think you think about generational, you're thinking about this is what it's about, because there's many of the Deborah of the world. To say I shout out myself is huge because I push her to, and that's what it's about. Definitely want to thank you all. Please give it up for yourself. I know about you, but we had a good time. What y'all think?
Definitely. This is great.
So we will continue, ladies. We gotta close out with the music. We're gonna follow up. Just have an amazing evening. Walk away with the music. Feel free to unplug.